I think it's chorizo. Chorizo? Chorizo.
I'd say
Does anyone
chorizo.
know the correct pronunciation? Chorizo?
I'd say chorizo.
Chorizo.
Chorizo, yeah.
Okay.
2 for chorizo.
Okay. Calenture. Oh, probably got that wrong too. It's a tropical fever or delirium suffered by sailors after long periods at sea who imagine the ocean to be green fields and feel a strong desire to leap into it.
And Paul Carter, the author of Don't Tell Mum I Work on the Rigs, She Thinks I'm a Piano Player in a Whorehouse, joins us this morning. Paul, it's one hell of a title for a book.
It's a crackerjack title.
Why did you feel the need to lie to your mum?
Well, it's actually an oil field expression. It goes back to the 60s. I can't take credit for the title.
Oh,
It's an
right.
old oil field gag. I think I first saw it on a T-shirt when I was about 12 in a workshop in Aberdeen, Scotland.
And what does it mean exactly?
I love it.
It's just one of those things that back at that time, working offshore was a bit of a, well, it was extremely rough. So guys that did it tended to be looked down upon. So it was, you know...
It's still bloody dangerous, though, isn't it?
It is, it is. It's like, God, don't tell my mother I work offshore. She thinks I'm a piano player in a whorehouse. That's much more respectable.
Yeah. So you still, although you've written this book, you still do it, don't you? You still work on the rigs?
Tomorrow. I'm flying to northern Russia tomorrow afternoon.
What, are you mad?
A little bit, I guess.
Have you been on the Russian rigs before?
It's my 7th trip to Russia.
I can't imagine any rig is much fun, but a Russian rig, I mean, and I dearly love the Russian people and all that they have to offer, but sometimes they leave the screw out occasionally, don't they?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, Dave. It's last year we nearly lost the rig. It nearly capsized. So, you know, 120 guys freaking out at 3 o'clock in the morning, minus 36 degrees, trying to put survival suits on and their life jackets and muster and get in lifeboats, and I mean, it was chaos.
Wait, so what, did you start hearing a dreadful groaning and the water gushed in? Or?
Well, it was a semi-submersible, so there are 2 submarine pontoons below sea level, and they ballast them so they can, you know, put the rig up and down in the water, basically. So the port side pontoon ruptured and started filling up with seawater. The rig started to list. It got to 5 degrees of list, and the OIM, the man in charge, just said, right, abandon the rig. So it was just chaos. A lot of guys out there were real, I mean, they are real characters. And I'll be joining them again to Vodka Bob, for example. I was in a room with Vodka Bob, a Canadian driller that's just affectionately called the Seal Basher. You know? So I'm in a room with these 2 guys, and the alarm goes off, and it was just, you know, Vodka Bob's on the floor with his leg in the arm of his survival suit. He looked like dogs do when they wipe their backside on the lawn. He was just doing those ones. So it was just, it was crazy. So
what sort of... these guys, they sound like fascinating characters. What appeals to a man to make him want to go to an oil rig?
Well...
Are these people that don't work anywhere else? I mean...
there's
well,
a
the
mix.
money's amazing, isn't it?
It can be. It depends on who you're working for and where you're working. But it's the guys, they just... I mean, we've got any given job has got, you know, guys with multiple degrees from Ivy League schools, very highly capable, switched-on people working alongside with a 3rd-generation driller from West Texas called Billy Ray, who just wants to talk about turkey season back home and his new truck. And you know, you put a bunch of guys in a remote part of the world like that, and it's always funny.
But it's not all about oil rigs, is it, this book? It's really a life experience.
It's a travelogue too, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it a travel book? Is that what you'd call it? Or?
It's like published as a biography, but it's quite often it's in the travel section, because so much of my work is spent running around all over the place, in one airport after another. It's kind of a bit of a blur. And
I read last night a fascinating chapter where your experience in Nigeria, and the reason why is because I was born in Nigeria, left Nigeria at 6 months old, so I don't remember anything about Nigeria. My parents certainly do. Well, I've always considered perhaps I should go back there, but having read your chapter, perhaps I shouldn't.
Well, pack your Kevlar vest and
why?
Be careful.
And take an Uzi with you.
It's where Nigeria used to be a real jewel in West Africa. Unfortunately, in recent years, it's gone completely
corrupt
down the tubes, and it's just incredibly corrupt and incredibly dangerous.
You tell an amazing story. Recount it for us.
Well, basically, we were held hostage on the rig, and a bunch of other things happened. We were, you know, shot at. That's something that really bends you out of shape when you realise someone's actually trying to shoot you. But on the rig, it was best described as a mutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 16 expats on board, and over 100 Nigerian nationals, and they decided they wanted a pay rise. And the oil company said, well, no, you've got to wait till the end of your current contract. So they, over a period of time, smuggled weapons out. And then one day, the Roughnecks and Rouseys just disappeared off the drill floor and came back. And, oh, right, OK. That was the end of it. And in the end, the American Navy came alongside and said, hey, you know, stop all this or we'll just take the rig back by force. And so everybody sort of dropped their guns and said, well, can we keep our jobs? That was the end of it. We just sat around watching Cartoon Network for 3 weeks till we ran out of food.
What a classic story. Tell me the orangutan story.
Oh, well, yeah, Meng. She was... this was a drill ship working in the South China Sea, and the barge engineer and the camp boss, the guy that runs the galley, went into, I think it was Balikpapan, to get some groceries, because the rig was getting some work done in the harbour. And the guy was Australian. Actually, he's from Melbourne. He saw this orphaned orang in a bamboo bird cage, and she was just wasting away. She was dying. So she broke his heart immediately. So he buys her $50 or whatever it was and brings her back to the rig. And 15 years later, she's fully grown and running the bar down below decks, because the crane operator was a cabinet maker by trade. And he built this beautiful teak bar on his time off, and Meng ran the bar. So, you know, you'd front up to the bar, and there's this orangutan sort of, kind of mixing drink, and oh wow! And the big gag was you just.
And you think you've got some kind of motion sickness, or you know?
Well, I just thought the guy needs a shave, you know. Hang on.
But you used to, the awful tricks would be played on the new guys to come into the bar, wouldn't it?
It was her stool. The one rule in her bar was just don't sit on her stool. So, of course, they never told you that. Would you like to sit here, mate? So, of course, I parked myself in her stool, and then she just stops what she's doing, gets you by the collar and the crotch, and goes... And they had a sofa there that was the landing zone, which no one ever sat in for obvious reasons, so you'd end up sort of lying in this couch. And then she'd just sort of dust it off and go back to what she was doing. Yeah.
And you could order drinks from her.
You could order drinks from her. You had to point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wasn't that switched on, but man, she was such a gentle thing.
What an absolute classic. Oh look, it is a very funny read though. Here it is. Don't tell Mum I work on the rigs. She thinks I'm a piano player in a whorehouse.
It's a terrific. It is a terrific read, and I've got a feeling that you've got thousands more stories in you.
Yeah, I'm halfway through book 2.
What's that one going to be called?
I have no idea yet, David. I don't know.
You've set yourself a benchmark with this one, haven't you?
Yeah, I sure have.
Look, when you come back from Russia, will you come in and see us again and tell us some more stories?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
That'd be marvellous. That'd be marvellous. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, time now for a carefully planned but adventure-filled trip with the shopping cart.